Alright, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm doing another official 2024 NBA mock draft. Again, we're starting to get into the really hard part of the draft now. It's no secret that this one is one of the most weakest drafts in NBA history. Again, some people are even comparing it to the 2013 one, which I'm not sure is true. In today's video, though, we're actually going to be going over picks 15 through 20. So again, we will be just going based off current NBA standings. And this is definitely like pretty hard because some of these guys, by the time of workouts come around, might not even be in consideration to be anywhere near the pick I've got them in right now. So it's very, very difficult. I've taken a gamble on a player or two in this mock draft, again, to make it even more interesting, I suppose. But again, yeah, it's definitely a very interesting mock draft, and I've definitely had to do a lot more research just for this year's draft and these players going 15 through 20. But of course, a ton of really good talent available still. And with the 15th overall pick, we do have the Miami Heat, who of course found themselves in a real interesting situation. This will be one of the highest picks they've had in recent time, and highest pick, I believe, since Tyler Hero. And again, I kind of just decided to go not only best available, but what I think might be a positional need for them. And that actually happens to be Isaiah Collier, who is a 6'4" point guard / shooting guard. A lot of drafts actually have him ranked 11 through 13. I've actually got him sliding down here to 15, which again, Miami like to take a lot of those steal type of players. So this one definitely suits it. Again, Isaiah Collier is one of the best guards in this draft. As being said, he's one of the best athletes in the whole entire class. He's not only strong, he's extremely fast and has almost jumped out of his gym shoes. He's a good ball handler, very crafty, very shifty player, and has the physical tools to give him a clear advantage over almost anyone who tries to guard him. Great finisher. He's great. He's got great court vision, making him a really decent playmaker as well. He's a good scorer in transition, has a really solid mid-range jump shot, and he can also create space for himself. Again, there are a couple of downsides. Even though he can be a great playmaker and does have court vision, he has the unfortunate knack to make a turnover when you really don't want him to. He can be inconsistent on his passes at time. Like, again, as I said, great playmaker for the most part, but if you're going to catch him in a bad game where he's turned it over once or twice, that's unfortunately probably going to continue, and it's one of the big things he's going to have to, of course, improve on in the NBA. He's also not exactly the greatest three-point shooter out there, which for the way he plays, I don't necessarily know if you extremely have to be. There have been players, that have been taken in his position before later in the draft who are just into score and are being told to develop their jump shot later. Again, the only, I think, major concern that would stop the Miami Heat from, of course, drafting him here is his defense just has not been good really at all. Again, this dude is still a 6'4" guard though, who I think will definitely be a good defender over time. Again, having the athletic ability that he does, the size and the height that he also has, you would think he is going to be pretty comfortable over time guarding the point guard positions in the NBA. But with how he plays, he might have to play some shooting guard, and we of course know defending a shooting guard at times can be a lot more difficult than defending a point guard, because there are some shooting guards in the NBA now who are legitimately 6'7", 6'8" tall. So there's a lot that has to go into, obviously, guarding the shooting guard position as well. Now, again, where the Miami Heat do currently sit, we really don't know who they're going to be, I think, going further forward with in the future. There's been some rumors at the time making this video that they're going to trade Jimmy Butler. I don't think that's going to happen, but apparently Jimmy Butler's been causing some issues, and Pat Riley's even had to call him out. We know that they also wanted to potentially bring in someone to fit more of the young core of what Hero and, of course, Bam Adebayo have. Again, if the Heat do look like they are actually going to want to go a bit younger, which they haven't done in a minute right now, I do believe they are going to keep this pick. And I also believe that they are going to look for not only best available, but positional need too. And I think Isaiah Collier does fit there. Now, interesting thing is he doesn't have a direct comparison so far in the NBA, but it's been said that he has shades of Jamal Murray in terms of his quickness and versatility to score around the basket, being a very shifty, of course, ball handler. Some Jaden Ivey in here as well, again, being a taller guard who can score, but hasn't really been that great as a defender. Again, Ivey is a 6'5" guy who just hasn't worked that well with his defense in the NBA thus far. So I'm guessing Isaiah Collier, that would be his knack on him, that where they say he's like, Jaden Ivey. So again, I think his defense could come. I still think Jaden Ivey's defense might come. Like, the thing is as well, Isaiah Collier is averaging 16 points per game and 4.5 assists. I think he would be cool for the Miami Heat, and I feel like he might work with Tyler Hero. You're probably going to want more of a playmaker in there, but even not, with this pick, you still also might want a scoring guard off the bench, which I don't think they really have. Their bench is going to need a massive overhaul this offseason. That is very, very obvious, and I wouldn't be surprised if drafting a dude like Isaiah Collier is going to be the one of the big steps that they, of course, decide to do. So again, that's why with the 15th overall pick, I've got the Miami Heat selecting Isaiah Collier out of USC. Now, moving on to the 16th overall pick, we have one of the surprise teams in the Orlando Magic, who, again, this is a very, very tough pick. This is probably the toughest pick, so I'm like, I really don't know who they're going to draft. Of course, they could legitimately take absolutely anyone here. I took a bit of positional need into account and where I think they, of course, might go. But I've actually got them selecting Tijan Saloon, which I'm hoping I got his name right. I know his last name, from what I've heard, is Saloon. Yeah, he's got one of those harder names to definitely pronounce. He's actually from France and will be about the 888th player in this draft class drafted out of France. The first two picks in my projected draft, Zachary Rasache and Alexander Sarr, are of course from France. And now we got Saloon as well, who also is from France. Now, again, before I get into the amazing positive with Saloon, I would just like to talk about the upsides and the downsides. Of course, it's being said he is an awesome athlete. He's super fast and has great hops. He's a really good three-point shooter with good mechanics and a high release point. He's great at playing off the ball, and he's a pretty good cutter. A leader in transition, and he gets down the court faster than most. He's a high upside defender. His length, agility, and flashes of skill give him elite upside as a defender. Some downsides, he's extremely bad with the ball in his hands half the time. Like, if you're looking for this dude to create a shot, it's probably not going to happen. The lucky thing, though, with the Orlando Magic is they have a ton of shot creators on their team. So this dude can definitely be a really nice off-ball asset to them. And, of course, he is raw and is being said to actually need quite a fair bit of time to develop. With how the Magic are going, do they have time to develop a guy like this? Maybe, maybe not. But again, dudes like Jet Howard and stuff should be, of course, making that next step next year and getting a lot more minutes. So having a dude like Salon will be a very, very, I think, necessary thing to, of course, have him develop, as maybe a 13th to 15th man. It's being said that he has shades of Mikal Bridges and John Collins. We know that when John Collins can get the ball in his hands, he can be pretty sloppy. I low-key feel like Mikal Bridges is a good shot creator, but he's not as great as what we all thought he was going to be. But there is one reporter out there, and this is why he's an interesting player, Tijan Saloon, is because he is actually being said that he could have traits of Giannis. Now, this is really interesting because, as I said earlier, this pick might be like the 2013 NBA draft, where realistically, we don't exactly know who is going to be the best players in this class. It could be absolutely anyone, and someone random might, of course, pop up. Now, I believe Gobert was also in the 2013 draft. I could be wrong on that, but I know Giannis definitely was. He went like 15th overall. And of course, we know he became an absolute freak. Again, Solon, right now, I do have him going with the 16th overall pick. So it kind of matches up in terms of that. A lot of people are saying he does have some comparisons as well, as he's elite in transition. Again, Giannis, when he was drafted, was actually a pretty good three-point shooter, and I believe they have similar shooting mechanics. That was before Giannis turned into my 600-pound life of pure muscle athlete. Again, Solon is also an awesome athlete, and it's being said he's super fast and is a, of course, great dunker here and there as well. So, realistic thing is, maybe if you gave this guy time to develop, like how Giannis, of course, developed over those years, we might be looking at a man who could possibly be really good in the NBA and a really good player for the Orlando Magic. So that's why I've got them taking Tajon Solon with this pick. Of course, with the 17th overall pick, we have the Toronto Raptors. Again, this was another hard pick. I didn't know who to really draft here, so I kind of just went best available, and I decided to take the G League player Tyler Smith, who I've legitimately heard some people say could go like top 10 if he actually figured his play out. Again, one website has him ranked 15th, one has 21, and one has 19. He's a great three-point shooter. He's being said to be pretty solid off ball. He's got good shot creation. He's also a solid rim protector who is a pretty versatile defender. But the issues with Tyler Smith are very, very big. There are two major issues which could make him, I guess, a pick that definitely really slides. And that's being said that he does have a decent floor, but he apparently doesn't have much upside. And what a lot of these websites are saying by this is, if you were going to draft Tyler Smith, basically the player you are drafting is what you are getting. There is a chance he doesn't improve that much. And he's also being said to have a lot of issues in terms of he's not a great playmaker, and sometimes he ruins the ball movement a little bit. He's kind of the type of player where, like, he's a good scorer, and if you sent him to, like, the Australian Basketball League, who, you know, the NBL, who needs some scoring, would be able to be a pretty solid player. So that's why I have a lot of worries with Tyler Smith in terms of, is this dude an NBA player, or is he going to be a player who's going to excel overseas or in the G League for the rest of his life, right? The thing is, though, the player he is right now is pretty good. So if you're saying he's not going to get a lot better, I think some NBA teams might actually, you know, take the risk on that and might just say, look, we know he's not going to get better, but we actually kind of like what we see right now. So if he can be a 8-point per game type of guy forever in his career, that's gonna be a good thing, right? Again, we got to remember as well, this draft is different to most drafts. Again, sometimes at pick 17, you're looking for a really good player who could still turn into being a really good starter for your team. In this year's draft, from almost like pick 12 onwards, you are looking for role players in this year's draft. Again, that's how weak it is. Tyler Smith, of course, being a small forward and power forward, he's a good defender, and I just feel like the reason I took this pick was, not only is he probably somewhat best available, but I feel like the Raptors might need some scoring off the bench. They might need some help off the bench. They've got a really good and underrated starting five, which has been underrated for a minute now. But I think they need a guy or two off the bench. And if you're just saying, look, let's just bring in this forward, he can guard small forward, he can guard power forward, he's a serviceable defender, and all we need is for him to come and average 8 points per game in his career, then we will be happy about that. Now again, will he improve? As I said, probably not, but teams are going to know this, and I think with the Raptors team, who is going to be looking for a lot of depth off that bench probably in this offseason, unless they want to continue to take the back seat and furthermore become one of the worst teams in the league and rebuild. You know, they could do that either way, but also the Raptors have been known to be a team that kind of likes to rebuild on the run. So I wouldn't be surprised if they still tried to fill out this bench. And again, drafting a guy like Tyler Smith, it's a fine idea. Again, he's not going to probably be a starter anytime soon, but if you're just looking for a dude who's going to average you 8 points off the bench, solid defense, you really can't ask for more, especially with the 17th overall pick in this year's draft. Now again, with the 18th overall pick, we have the New Orleans Pelicans. And my eyes, when I see what the Pelicans need, I think they, of course, need some center depth. And that's why I've actually got them taking Ivis Missy out of Baylor, a 6'11" center who is actually, I think, one of the most exciting players in this draft. Now, he is really raw. Don't get me wrong. He's one of the most raw players in this draft. But if you've got a spare minute or so, put down the Abella Danger video, put down the Lana Rhodes video on your phone, hop off that website and go and watch some highlights of Ivis Missy, because I guarantee you, he will touch you in ways that better than any Abella Danger video can. This dude's an exciting guy. Again, he only averages 11 points per game on 5.5 rebounds. But I like how he plays. Like, I don't know what it is. He just seems to be a really nice and athletic center who can be a really good pick and roll player in the NBA. Again, it's being said that he has great rim protection as well, in terms of if you're looking for a good defender, a great shot blocker. His length and IQ really help him with that as well. He's a super effective pick and roll man. You compare him with any good point guard, and he could be elite in this area. He's a great lob threat in that pick and roll as well. Decent defender, decent rebounder, sorry. But again, outside of that, there are some downsides. Again, very raw, as I said earlier. And he doesn't provide much value outside of the paint, offensively or defensively, other than the pick and roll. Again, that's fine. You're not, especially in this draft, you're not looking for a dude who's going to be the next, you know, Victor Wembanyama at this rate. You're just looking for a guy who's going to come in and play his role. It is being said that he's compared to Clint Capella or how Mark Williams is. And I actually think Mark Williams is a really good player on that Hornets team. And I've said this for a long time. The issue with Mark Williams is, though, is he's not good enough to, I think, be a starting center in the NBA, but he's too good to be a backup center in the NBA. I know it doesn't make really any sense, but that's how this Ivis Missy guy might be. He's not going to be good enough to be a starting center, but he could develop into being one of the best backup centers in the whole entire NBA. Again, the New Orleans Pelicans, they're going to need depth at that center position too. I believe Jonas Valanciunas is a free agent. I'm not exactly too sure if they're going to bring him back. He might get some ridiculous offer. And also, he has regressed a lot as a player. We know that Jackson Hayes as well really did nothing for the New Orleans Pelicans, to the point where they legitimately let him go to like the Los Angeles Lakers for free. They're going to need some centers on this team. I have always liked the idea of Zion playing center. I've said this for a while. I think Zion would actually be a good center in the NBA. I know he's only 6'7", and he'd get caught defensively for a fair bit. But if you really want, having like that small ball Zion at center with Missy maybe coming off the bench as a backup would kind of be pretty cool. Then you probably have to sign a veteran center to help out here and there. I've just thought having a spacing of Zion at center and doing some point forward or point center plays is how I would do it. Again, the Pelicans are yet to do this. They have run him at point forward a couple times, but for some reason they refuse to play him at center. It actually really annoys me, because I've had this idea for a while, and again, he just hasn't played much center in his NBA career, and I legitimately believe it would be a pretty cool idea. Having a dude like Ivis Missy on this team, there's also playmakers on this Pelicans team. They probably need to add another one or two, but Dyson Daniels, I think, will become a very good playmaker in the NBA. CJ McCollum still does the job here and there as well. But yeah, I just think Ivis Missy for the Pelicans, it makes a lot of sense, you know, and they're going to need some centers. They're probably going to draft one here no matter what, I'm assuming, unless they decide to go out in free agency and spend money there. But yeah, Having a guy like Ibis Missy on this team makes a ton of sense for me, and is an exciting live wire who I think they will really like. Now, with the 19th overall pick, we have the Philadelphia 76ers, and goodness gracious me, are they going to be doing some interesting things this offseason? I'm not sure if they're going to keep this pick. They'll probably have to, because I don't think there's going to be too much trading in the draft this year in terms of teams looking at picks and stuff. But I've actually got them taking Jared McCain out of Duke. Now, I think Jared McCain is actually a good player, even though there's some different things that are said about him. Again, Duke low-key just keep bringing in good players every single year. They've got Tyrese Proctor on that team, of course, as well, of Kyle Filipowski. So they've got a couple of dudes that are going to get drafted this year too. And when I look at McCain, I do think of those McCain ads that we have in Australia.
Ah, McCain, you've done it again.
I'm not gonna lie, like McCain, you've done it again. But I like him. I think he's a good player. He averages 14.5 points per game on 5 rebounds. Even though he's listed as a point guard on the website I'm looking at right now, I'm imagining he's gonna be more of a shooting guard in the NBA. It's being said that he's a good 3-point shooter who's good at moving off the ball and getting in positions to not only find a shot, but be really good on the catch and shoot opportunities. He's a better passer, reports say, than the numbers do indicate, so maybe he can convert to being a good playmaker in the NBA. He's smart with the ball and good at executing his passes. He's a solid perimeter defender, and he does a good job containing guards, whether that's point guard or shooting guard. Some downsides though, he's a smaller player, and when you have him at that shooting guard position at 6'3", he might struggle. He also plays on a team with a lot of guards, so he hasn't really had much opportunity to shine, as he's had to share the ball with players like Tyrese Proctor as well. It's also being said that he's not exactly the greatest shot creator, and his self-creation can sometimes be inconsistent and doggy doo-doo. So this is going to be interesting to see where McCain goes in this draft. How I was looking at Philadelphia is, I think, again, with this pick, you're not going to be looking for someone to start. That's very obvious. Tyrese Maxey will be their starting point guard going forward. Joel Embiid will be their starting center going forward as well. They're looking at a lot of different players here. They still have D'Anthony Melton, who's been good. Kelly Oubre might come back. I'm not exactly too sure. Tobias Harris is definitely going to go to the Detroit Pistons on like $1 million per second, apparently, because that's the ridiculous contract they're offering him. So they're going to have some money to move. Again, there's been reports they're going to target a couple different dudes here and there. But if they do that, another point of emphasis for them will be to, of course, retain a good bench that can help out pretty well. And Patrick Beverley, you know, they traded him away. They lost a guard off the bench. What are they going to be doing with their backup guard positions? I'm not sure. D'Anthony Melton is still there and Tyrese Maxey starts. But other than that, I think they might be a tiny bit weak. And that's why I've kind of got McCain going here. I suppose when he does first come into the NBA, though, he's probably going to be a 12th to 15th man. I don't particularly see this guy getting too much minutes too quickly. In fact, there's some websites that have him rated like 16th. Some that have him like 19th, where I've got this pick. But then some that have him like in 30. So it's tough again as well, because he's also had to play a lot of his career so far with a ton of guards. So he's really had to, I think, prove himself a bit extra, and there still might be a little bit more than meets the eye of what we're seeing right now. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this, of course, does go. I do think that with how Jared McCain has gone, he has worked himself up into still being a top 20 pick. I still think the Philadelphia 76ers desperately need to draft and retain depth. So I think they'll keep this pick. And I also think that this guy, he might not play for a fair bit. But if someone, again, touch wood, this doesn't happen. But if someone like D'Anthony Melton or Tyrese Maxey were to go down with an injury, then they're, of course, going to need to, I think, have a guy like Jared McCain actually step up and potentially play some minutes. Now, with the 20th overall pick, we do have my team, the Cleveland Cavaliers. You know damn well I had to put extra focus on this pick. A lot of you guys who have been watching these draft videos now have been asking me, who do I go for? Again, come on, lads. You should know I'm a massive Cleveland Cavaliers fan. And I'm not going to lie. With this 20th overall pick, I've actually gone very, very unconventional here. And I really like the player. And I have done my research on this man and why I think he would be a very good fit for the Cavaliers team. And that's actually, of course, Johnny Furphy from Kansas. Now, you guys might be thinking, whoa. He's only drafted him because he's Australian. Look, me and my brother Johnny Furphy, we got that in common. That's for sure. But in case you haven't noticed, the Cleveland Cavaliers, for some reason, consistently still have issues with their three-point shooters. And even though they dumped like $25 million this most recent free agency in shooting, it didn't really improve that much in my opinion. Max Strus on $16 million a year was so inconsistent for the Cavs. And again, he plays his best ball at shooting guard, but has to play small forward, even small ball power forward when Allen's hurt or Mobley's hurt. If Donovan Mitchell does get traded, I think Max Strus will play shooting guard minutes next year. But then there's the other one, of course, George Niang, who just sucked for the Cavaliers this year. He came in looking like someone from my 600-pound life. Again, no offense, George Niang, but I'm also fat myself, so I can call you out for this, because if I got paid $9 million, I'd make sure to maybe get a little bit more fit. The Cavaliers are most likely going to exile him off. They're probably going to trade him to a team who is looking to take a chance on a guy like George Niang. Again, they're going to need some outside shooting, and Johnny Furphy is actually really perfect for that. It's being said that he's one of the best shooters in the entire draft class, and maybe the best movement and off-ball shooters in the whole entire draft. His form is great, and he has been extremely efficient behind the three-point line. He's really good at playing off the ball. He's a smart cutter, he's fast, and he's really good at creating space for himself. He's a good athlete, not exactly explosive, but he has a ton of energy and a higher vertical than most would suspect. He puts a ton of effort into both ends of the court, and he can rebound really well. Because of this, he's a very solid defender, and he moves well on his feet and has great length and athleticism to swallow players whole, this website says. Pause, man. What the fuck? That's crazy. But also, his downsides say he plays almost exclusively off the ball, so we haven't seen much of what he looks like with the ball in his hands. He has a really small sample size given the fact that he, again, didn't have consistent minutes to start the season, and his decision making can be a bit iffy, although no one is really too concerned with it at the moment. He's actually being compared to Grayson Allen right now, who I feel like has gone pretty underrated in his career. Again, he just signed like a $20 million deal though, so clearly not that underrated right now. Again, there's a lot of pros with Johnny Furphy. And what I'm saying is, even though he's not really supposed to go with this pick, don't be surprised if the Cleveland Cavaliers do it. Again, he was ranked 28th on ESPN and 23 on Fanspo, and I do have him going 20th, of course, with this pick, which would be 8th ahead of his projected. But let me tell you a couple reasons why I love Johnny Furphy, other than him being a great shooter who fits so much needs for the Cavaliers. And of course, I think, again, he's an Aussie, so I gotta love the dude, right? Again, let me talk about some things with Johnny Furphy first. First of all, in the first half of his career at college, you would not have even heard of this guy. This dude, I don't even believe, was ranked in the draft. Then slowly but surely, he started doing some really good things in terms of shooting really well that caught a lot of teams' eyes, and again, a lot of people really liked what they saw. In the span of a couple of months, he went from being an undrafted player to being ranked 28th on ESPN. Is it too early for him to go and nominate for the draft? Maybe. Should he play another couple years of college? Probably he should, right? But the thing is, I think teams are seeing and have convinced him to nominate for the draft just because of how quickly he's improved. And his best thing is shooting and defense, which teams absolutely love in the NBA. The realistic thing is the Cavaliers are going to be making a couple moves that probably see them dumping George Niang's contract to a team like San Antonio, etc., right? Who might be looking to take on some contracts for a couple second round picks. The Cavaliers are going to need a dude like Johnny Furphy, and especially if he doesn't play much to start off with, they're going to still need to develop him. And the Cavaliers have time to do this. People forget that if we take away Donovan Mitchell, the Cavaliers are still a really young team. Garland's like 24, Mobley's like 23, Allen's like 25, Okoro's like, again, 23. Mobley might even be like 22, I think. Emoni Bates, who might be better for this team pretty soon, is like 20. A guy like Johnny Furphy is only 19. This is still one of the younger teams in the NBA. And if they do decide to trade Donovan Mitchell, which I don't know if that's going to happen, whatever it might be there, this definitely could be a situation where the Cavaliers take a step backwards to take 2 steps forward. Maybe hit the draft for another year. Maybe after that they might return to the draft, of course, with the picks that they would maybe get back from Mitchell, maybe from doing a couple other things here and there as well. There's definitely a lot of room for them to look at this. They'll still own their picks that are pick swapped with the Utah Jazz too. Again, Johnny Furphy makes a ton of sense for this Cavaliers team. Whether they're looking to still remain a top 4 contending team with Donovan Mitchell, or if maybe they trade Donovan Mitchell and push back to like an 8th seed, Johnny Furphy is still a great addition to this Cavaliers team, who would absolutely make a ton of sense. They desperately need shooting. He fits in with their defensive game style that they will still most likely have, whether JB Bickerstaff's with the team next year or not. It makes a ton of sense, and that's why I've got the Cleveland Cavaliers selecting Johnny Furphy with the 20th overall pick out of Kansas. But of course, if you haven't already, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Comment your thoughts and opinions on this all down below. Where do you guys think Johnny Furphy is, of course, going to end up? Do you guys think the Cavaliers should look at him? What do you guys think about all my other picks? Do you guys all agree with them or not? I'd very much like to know. If you don't, please comment your thoughts and opinions down below. I'd very much like to hear. Again, subscribe to the channel for all the latest NBA content and NBA news. Subscribe to my gaming channel and my IRL/vlogging channels. Links for them will, of course, be in the description down below. But as I was saying, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.